So I kind of just wanted to give an overview, not only of land management, but also as to what's to come throughout the rest of today's workshop. We know from land ownership in Alabama, private landowners is where forest production is going to occur and where wildlife conservation is going to occur. You just look at the land mass. I think a lot of state and federal agencies are relying on that and shifting a lot of resources towards landowners and to help them to better manage their properties. You know, most of our state is forested, a little bit of pasture, cropland, obviously in the Tennessee River Valley area, the Black Belt Prairie is where we see a lot of that, but forest owners make up the bulk of the land ownership in Alabama. And of course, their motivations vary widely. No two people are the same in what they hope to acquire or gain or use their property for, and you as landowners. But again, it's going to be various levels of that. Some people will be a little bit more heavier towards a timber investment, while folks are more towards the recreational side of it. And in that, the variability in those two objectives of management is going to have to be tailored to meet those objectives. If we look at a survey, granted this was 6 years ago, but doubt very much has changed. You know, family forest owners or national forest owners, you look at some of the percentage response rank, you know, their objectives for owning property. You know, aesthetics or nature, you know, being able to get out, relax with family and friends and so forth. Family legacy, having something passed down to future generations. Hunting, recreation. The important thing to note is timber production doesn't always rank high. It's an important aspect of owning property. It's an important investment that people are making in owning property, but a lot of times it's not the primary motivation regarding land ownership. Obviously, there's a lot of different potential objectives that you may have for your property. You know, again, the traditional ones, hunting, timber investment. You know, if you look at timber investment, are you going to saw logs, poles, or silvo pasture as a means to get some more steady source of funds through your property, through cattle grazing, in combination with growing trees. Pine straw in some areas is becoming an objective with landowners. It's more big what I see in South Carolina, Georgia, that is here in Alabama. Carbon credits, that's kind of come. I don't know where that's going, but biofuels is getting to be a hot topic. Okay, producing fiber for the production, eventual production of biofuels. You know, from what I personally see right now, yeah, it's great, but there's still some technology challenges that have to be overcome, and also developing that infrastructure. But later on down the road, you know, 5, 10, 15 years, that may become a big player in landowner objectives. But your objectives should drive the management. Your management needs to be tailored to help you reach that objective. And sometimes they become decoupled. It's not always clear. And that's what we're here for today, to provide you that technical knowledge, to link up, depending on what your objectives are, your management to meet those objectives. As an example, and this is kind of a classic example of sometimes where the wrong thought process gets worked into trying to manage their objectives. And this relates to managing timber to produce not only good saw logs, but also optimal wildlife habitat, and more specifically, overabundant deer forage. We know recreation is important. In Alabama, deer and turkeys, pretty much what we hunt. Obviously, it's deer, and turkeys, pretty much what most folks are interested in. Quail to some extent, but you really have to have a good piece of property with lots of birds before somebody's going to be interested in leasing property for birds. Let's kind of break this down a little bit further. You know, let's talk about deer. We know how to manage deer, okay? And to manage large antlered deer, we know how to do that. It's a no-brainer, over and done with. Age, nutrition, genetics, okay? Now, I'm a wildlifer, and so you're going to get the wildlife spend on there. But age, nutrition, genetics are three things we need to manage large antler deer, which people like to have and hunt. Okay, that's usually what they're after. Genetics, you really can't screw with that too much. It's something that's going to be tough to do, but you can start managing age and nutrition. You can manage age real easily through harvest management, protecting those younger age class deer. And you want those mature bucks are going to be in a 4, 5, 6-year-old range. You have to protect them from harvest and get the age. So you got age, you got genetics, which you really can't modify in wild populations. And that leaves you with managing nutrition. Now, how do we manage deer nutrition? Here's an example of managing your pine stand to produce overabundant, high-quality deer forage. This is about a 20 or so year old pine stand. This side of the pine stand has been left alone. This is traditionally what you see in pine stands in the southeast, where you have a lot of hardwoods encroaching within that pine stand, where there's sweet gums, ash, oaks, hickories, and so forth, and shading out this understory. It looks like there's a lot of food there for deer, whereas this side is a managed pine stand where they went in, sprayed a herbicide, ran prescribed fire through there to remove this hardwood midstory in this pine stand. Now, two things are occurring here. You're getting better growth on your trees here because you don't have that competition with hardwoods. And secondly, they're producing a lot of high-quality deer forage within that pine stand. You know, how does it compare to cowpeas, something that you traditionally plant as a summer warm season food crop for white-tailed deer? If you look at leaf biomass, treated is essentially that managed pine stand where you're removing the hardwoods with a herbicide application and then prescribed fire, and then maintaining it in that herbaceous brown layer with fire every 2 or 3 years. The unmanaged was what you saw on the right, you know, where you have that hardwood component within that pine stand, shading out that understory. And then a cowpea food plot. Leaf biomass, you know, crude protein, cowpeas, you're still producing more crude protein per hectare than you are in a managed forest. But if you do no manage, you're not producing deer forage in that pine stand. Now, if we look at the cost of it, over a 10-year time frame, you know, including fertilizer, any herbicides, seeds, liming, and so forth in that food plot, versus the initial investment of herbicide and prescribed fire to control those hardwoods, and then managing that stand with fire every 2 years, over a course of 10 years, that's what you're looking at price-wise. Now, that's one aspect of it. How many acres of food plots do you generally plant on your property? Say 1% of the acreage of your property maybe gets planted into food plots, maybe 5% in some areas, 10% if you really plant a lot. My question that I always ask landowners is, yep, that's great. I encourage you to plant food plots, and you should plant food plots as supplemental food. But the question that really needs to be answered is, what are you doing with the other 90% of your property? Okay, and that's where a lot of this management comes in. Okay, food plots are definitely an important part of habitat management, but they're more of a supplemental part when you start looking at total amount of acreage of that property that you're putting into high-quality deer forage. Okay, you're managing 20, 30 acre pine stands out of whack, as opposed to 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 acre food plots at a time. Okay, this does not factor in the increased growth that you're going to get on your trees through having a managed forest as opposed to an unmanaged forest. Obviously, when you get into management, nothing comes for free. You have to invest some inputs into your management, whether it's a herbicide application, a reclaimicide, or prescribed fire, discant fire lanes, and so forth. But you got several different potential outputs. Okay. Obviously, taking an active role in managing that forest, you increase timber value. I think most folks here realize that and understand that. Secondly, wildlife habitat value. Okay, nesting cover, roosting cover, brood rearing cover for turkeys and quail. Some of our guest speakers will point out as they go through their presentations the value of active managed areas versus non-managed areas in terms of wildlife habitat. It's just not a food issue. In fact, for most birds, quail and turkeys, it's a habitat issue. Nesting cover and brood rearing cover are usually the limiting factors. It's not food. Very rarely will you find food being a limiting factor for wildlife. It's usually nesting cover, roosting cover, loafing cover, bedding cover, fawning cover, and so forth. And also increased property values. There's a good study in Mississippi by Darrell Jones, kind of my counterpart over there in Mississippi State, looking at what is the increase in value of folks who manage for recreational purposes. Yeah, they manage for timber, but they also manage for recreation, recreational property. And they're seeing some of those property prices increase by as much as 36%. Because folks are buying, again, look at the trends from my earlier slides. Folks are buying land mainly for recreation. Okay, if you have a turnkey operation, I buy this piece of property that's been professionally managed to provide wildlife habitat, has good deer on it, has good turkeys on it, occasional quail here or there. That property is worth more to you as a seller and as the buyer is willing to pay for that. Just a few notes on understanding management. You've heard me mention herbicides. Yeah, that doesn't look too pretty, but herbicides are an important tool in managing your forest. And they're relatively safe today, used within label recommendations. We don't have a problem. The days of Rachel Carson and the eggshells, salting the eggshells and killing the raptors and so forth are pretty much well past us. The technology of herbicides has grown by leaps and bounds and are very safe. In fact, for some herbicides are very specific as to whether they attack or work on grasses, forbs, hardwoods versus pine and so forth. And Ted DeVos is going to talk to us later this morning. I think we had John later this morning. About the role in herbicides and how they can be used in a forestry and wildlife context. The other thing is burning. I know when you say burning, people seize up, may not want to burn, but it's an important management tool that we have. Okay, it's a very cost-effective tool, and obviously there are some inherent risks to prescribed burning. That's why I have John Stivers come in and talk to us about prescribed burning, how it's used, what are some of the things that you need to think about in terms of managing and how to do it safely. That's the big thing, to minimize and reduce that landowner liability in case something bad happens. And finally, this afternoon, I've got Joel Glover coming in to talk about some of the financial resources that are available to offset some of these management expenses. Now, some folks may have unlimited resources, but still it's good business, if you think about it, to tap into some of these other sources of financial assistance that are available through some of our federal farm bill programs. There's several of them out there. Some of the most popular ones, you may have heard of Conservation Reserve Program. That's taking cropland out of production, putting it in either trees or grass. But more applicable, I think, for a lot of landowners, the Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program, which is a cost share program, and they cost share several practices that can be used to enhance wildlife habitat value. EQIP has a few forestry cost share programs within it. And again, I'll leave a lot of this to Joel Glover because he's more of an expert on it than I am to give us a rundown of some of the opportunities that are available for you as a landowner. Again, three general different types of financial assistance along with the technical assistance. Cost shares usually run about 50% or so of the management that you want to do. If you sign up for CRP, get into that. There's a rental rate and sign up pay payments. If you're interested in waterfowl management, for example, the Wetlands Reserve Program, which is more of a permanent easement type of program, is an option.